and then we'll get moving here. Father in heaven, as we come this morning, we ask for your blessings, and we think about all that you revealed in your word, and truly, it's so consistent from the Old Testament into the New Testament, helping us to see not only Jesus' role, but what you've planned for us as well. And so we just ask this morning that you would continue to give us your wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay.
Sure.
So the name of Yahweh, personified, right? You guys are there? We saw last time the, when I say tentative, visible personification of the word. We said that in Genesis 15, a couple other ones there. And I really do appreciate if you guys disagree with me. Because, no, seriously. See, don't worry about it. In all humility, it's not that I think I'm wrong, but you result in, it makes things sharper. But it helps me to look at it from a different angle, and then have another presentation from that angle. Like, hey, you know what? This angle says this, and then here's the response. That angle, I never thought of that angle, but here's how the response is. And that because in that regard, so there's been several, throughout all this, in people challenging. No, this isn't true. It forces me to look at it from a different angle, which is good, and then to see how Scripture, things that were there, from that angle, how it answers it. And so, because I think the overall approach from the Old Testament. Let me rephrase it. Okay. When we think about the Old Testament, and we saw Genesis 15 and the way that the Word came and the Word was touching him and the Word was speaking, that can be a little ambiguous. And I understand that. I understand the limits of the Old Testament as it relates to the Word, Logos. But when we get to the New Testament, it's crystal clear. So part of it is understanding, understanding the way the Old Testament reads. I'm trying, as we've been learning, not to read New Testament theology and force it back on the Old Testament. Okay. Now, we might get an insight, like as it relates to John inspired in John 1:1, saying that the Word was God. And that's crystal clear. There's no ambiguity there. But when we look in the Old Testament, we see, again, the Word coming and the Word touching, and we're like, well, that's kind of odd. Is it a vision? How does a word show up in a vision? So is he referring to the Word as a person, like a embodiment, physically embodied person? Visible would be a better way. And that's hard to see sometimes. Until we read Genesis 15 through the lens of John 1:1. Which we're trying not to do. We're trying to let the Old Testament stand on its own. But yet, I don't think that at the end of the day, we're not uncertain. The Word was God. John 1:1 says that. So in the same way, what we're going to look at today is this idea of the name being visibly personified. A physical. When I say physical, I got to be careful with that because it's a visible manifestation of God, right? So in theology, let's put a couple words. Let's learn some words here. You have this word, a theophany, right? So let's divide this out here. We understand the word epiphany, right? What's epiphany? Realizing that.
Yeah. Understanding?
Yeah. Insight. Let's do Google here. Let's Google up epiphany. Okay.
Like you've had the experience before?
Well,
That's deja vu.
yeah.
Oh,
What's the meaning of epiphany?
what's the meaning of epiphany?
Epiphany means the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles is represented by the Magi. Matthew 2:1-12.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the church historical celebration.
Wonderful. What a holy. You're in. You want to
The other one, were you? I was not expecting.
Wonderful and Three by Alexis.
Well, that was a Google, was it? The dictionary, it says. Okay, so let's do it again.
Is it a visual information? Yeah.
Do you do it? Let's. It'll probably come the same answer. No. Let's. You might have to actually type, Siri. Is it like? What is? What is that? Let's type. Yeah. What is type? If it doesn't go like this and it doesn't go like this, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Symphony is like an aha moment.
An aha moment. See, so this is talking about the festival. Going back, we don't want that. I like that first one anyway. There it is. Oh, Christ. Come on.
Okay, I got it.
What do you got? It's got to be in one of the.
A moment of sudden revelation or finish.
There you go. A usually sudden manifestation or perception of the essential nature or meaning of something. An intuitive
Right.
grasp of reality through something, usually simple and striking, an illuminating discovery, realization, or disclosure. So, when we talk about epiphany, I had an epiphany, which means it was a manifestation of something that's happened. Okay, the key word is, what does manifestation mean? It shows up. It's something that displays itself or demonstrates itself or manifests itself. You might say somebody who has an anger problem that, oh, wow, that anger really manifested itself, right? We would use that language where you maybe didn't realize that they had an anger problem and all of a sudden, boom, you're like, well, I heard about it, but this is the first time I've seen it manifested. Okay. So when we think about this ending here, epiphany means something manifested or an idea. It comes from another, Greek preposition. But here, a theophany then would be what?
Manifestation.
That's the manifestation of God or a manifestation of Christ. So when we talk about theophanies, oftentimes these get blended together because a theophany would be one of the best examples would be in Genesis 18, where God shows up with two angels, and they're coming up, and they come to Abraham, and God says, "Well, hey, I'm going to check out Sodom and Gomorrah. I've given them some warnings, and I'm going to go see if everything that I warned them about is being taken care of. Otherwise, I'll know." And so we know from after they ate a meal together with the two angels that the two angels go off to Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's where Genesis 19, they get locked, remember? And that's where right before this in Genesis 18, Abraham's having this discussion. Hey, if there's 50 there, if there's 45, if there's 10, will you spare it? He says, I'll spare it if there's 10. Okay, so welcome back, Bob. Hey, well, suntan, renting from Hawaii, it's great. Freedom. Yes, so if you have God showing up there with the two angels, you're looking at it and you're going, oh, I see three guys walking. So it's at least a theophany because it says he spoke to Yahweh. The question of scholars now, New Testament scholars, are going to go, well, was this a pre-Christ, pre-incarnate Christ ophany? Was that really Jesus showing up? So that's what we're going to see here today, is these ophanies, the word manifesting itself, and today the name. Okay, so
Question. I know I missed last week.
jump anytime.
Do you define?
Yes, what we did is what we talked about was the theology of Judaism, where there's this is the Hebrew word davar. There's also, we said in later rabbinic is the memra, and then in the Greek or in the New Testament you have the idea of logos. So in the book of John, the logos in the beginning was the logos, and the logos was with God, and the logos was God. So what we're looking at was this phrase being used to describe a person. And we're, you're going to, hey, word, that's their title, that's their name. The name is the word. And that's in granted for us in the New Testament, we talk about Jesus being the incarnate word, right? He's the word of God. We see that as well in Revelation 19 when he returns. What's on his leg? He has a name on his
King, king.
on his King of Kings, and he was the Word of God. It's interesting that that's his name. So one of his names is being the Word of God.
I guess the only reason I ask is because I've struggled with word. And so I heard somebody say one time that helped me get like kind of a grasp on it was a word. It's an expression of the mind. And so like when it says, you know, he is the word, he is the expression of God, and it backs up with scripture other places, but because I was like, you know, what is the word? We look at here and there's words on the page, you know, it's words. And so I was just wondering if you actually define what, I see those different words for words, but so what a word is, because it's an action too.
It is. This word logos has a whole bunch of philosophical connotations to it, as well as, trying to understand. Like, for example, Judy Ratzit emailed me because she watches these too, and she said, "Well, I read a long time ago that someone said in the beginning, in John 1:1, in the beginning was logic." Now that's the word. This is certainly the word where logic comes from. Logos, in a secular sense, has the idea of being a phrase or a meaning or an expression that a philosophical, it has a whole philosophy behind it, which would include logic, things that are consistent. True, right? True to my definition is consistent. And so one of the things I said to her, I said, well, you have some writers that are trying to read into John's gospel, him writing, in the beginning was logic. And I said, well, that what she had read was logic was the first thing that God created. And I said, well, I think that logic was not created. I think logic is eternal. But and what I mean by that is not as a separate being, but logic is eternal because it's part of God's character, his very divine nature. Why? Because Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth. Truth by definition is logical. So when he creates us, being made in his image, having the ability to think, we recognize the laws of non-contradiction, right? The laws of cause and effect. These things, A can't be B and A at the same time and in the same relationship. You get all this stuff in philosophy and logic. Then we recognize, well, where does that come from? Where does truth come from? It comes from a person. It comes from the nature of that person by definition. So logos could be a whole bunch of different things depending on how you slice it. And I don't necessarily want to get into all of the philosophical ramifications, but some later New Testament, I would say churches writers, they try to do that. Some of the Gnostics, they try to make this an impersonal force. And we go, no, not the way John is writing it. It's a person.
But not all logic is true. You just have to put that together because you can make logical assumptions, thinking you're moving down a straight line bit of logic that ends up really not being true. I mean, one of the big illogical things our culture is on about is equality. Like everything needs to be equal. And so they think that that's fair and just, but that's not necessarily true.
So
Yeah, that would be right. Coming to an incorrect conclusion based on the premises.
See, that's
the good thing, the premises, which lead to an incorrect, which is illogical, right? Because the conclusion has to follow from the premise.
Exactly.
So it's
you see stuff like this. If A, then B. Well, since B, then A, right? And so you have these syllogisms that come around, but what scholars will say is, well, your logic is sound, but your arguments, your overall arguments, so your process is sound, but your overall argument is not valid. Why? Because your premise is wrong.
Your presupposition.
Yeah. So we might say, hey, if what you're saying is true, your logic is perfect, great. But it's not true. Just because your logic is true doesn't mean that your overall argument is true because your premise is faulty. So that's where I would say logic doesn't fail. Logic doesn't fail. So I wouldn't say logic is wrong. I would say that their premise is wrong, and therefore their overall argument is about, right? That's what you were saying.
Yeah, I guess when I've try to muddy logic up. I think it's the point that they'll add additional hypotheses to their first failed one. And so they just keep going.
Yeah, it builds as he builds.
And that then it looks like the logic is silly and illogical because it's tied to so many it becomes a faith statement. It becomes a religion. You look at a religion and you hear some of the, historical, folklores and myths and stuff, and you just realize, wow, that where did the logic somehow is missing.
Well, that's
But it started with logic as far as they're
see. That's well. This is the precision that. So, if you're talking with someone about anything, this is where thinking is really important. They'll go, well, if A, then blah, and then they might end up down as Z. And you go, oh, and then it builds, and you're going, oh. And they say, see, let's prove it. And you go, whoa. I agree with everything you said here if your foundation was right.
Because logic doesn't necessarily lead to truth.
Not necessarily, well, agree.
Or logic is
Sound logic always leads to truth.
Sound logic, okay? But this is where the word sound and valid, I would say, yeah, I'm with you, brother Mel, all the way. It's too bad that your initial premise is wrong.
Yeah.
So that just undercuts everything.
Yeah.
But you I'd say, hey, you didn't spend enough time questioning the initial presupposition or foundation, which you built everything on. And that's what we see in our culture, is they have these very logical sounding, and I would say they are logical. They're just not true because of this.
I got a good example of that, actually, that just came out. Tampax had set out a tweet talking about men menstruating, and everybody's praising, James, but their initial premise is wrong. But everybody's praising them for their, so their arguments. Is all into line? We're not. In beef with touches. Sorry, you missed.
If we define this, we can define it. Let's define it biblically, okay, for now, because that's what we're doing. But it does have a variety of definitions to it, and whole theologies and philosophies surrounded by that. And what we can't do is to say, in the beginning was this impersonal force, called logic or the word or philosophy itself. In the beginning was a person. Anybody? I mean, that's really what John's saying, right? Because the person in verse 14 became flesh. How do you? I guess if you really wanted to be figurative and hence allegorical or spiritual, you could talk about how the Logos becomes flesh every day in your heart, whatever. And I don't think that's what John's saying. It's talking about person. So in the same way, this is what we're doing here. We're still establishing the divine counsel idea, because what we've been seeing is that especially when we went through Daniel 7, you have the Ancient of Days sitting on his throne, and there's a lot of thrones set out. These are all thrones right here. But then this guy comes along, the Son of Man comes along, and he's given authority which seems to be equal to the Ancient of Days, this Yahweh figure, right? Because this guy gets to ride on the clouds. Remember how we established that? So now what we're looking at is, we're looking at not only the divine counsel, but we're looking at the divine throne. And that's why we came up with, we revealed it or shared it, this idea of Benitarianism, this, not Trinitarianism so far, two. That somehow, and the Jews believed in this two-power idea, because not that they wanted to, but they were like, it's hard for us to deny what we're reading in our own book. And it wasn't until later that two powers idea was declared heresy because of Christianity. But when you get into one of the things that Michael Heiser did, which was really helpful in not just his book Unseen Realm, but in his dissertation, he went through and he talked about the divine counsel idea, not only in the Old Testament, but also in the Dead Sea Scrolls. what was the viewpoints of the people living in the time of Jesus. And so he established, that was pretty much his whole dissertation was about establishing this divine council idea and how consistent it was, not only in the Old Testament, but as well as in the people recognized it. Yeah, we can't deny it. This is what it's saying. And then later they come up with different things. So what we're doing is this is going to help us ultimately when we get to John 10 and establishing that argument that Jesus had with the Jews about his own person. And of course, as we extrapolate this further, us being down here as humans, we get to come up and be a part of, the divine council. And in as much as Jesus says, hey, I'll let you sit on my throne. So it's almost like specifically the church, and we would say believers in general, but the church is going to be at the right hand of God on Jesus' throne. And I don't know how we're going to all fit there, but you know what I'm saying? It's authority. That we are going to have that level of authority, not that we're little gods by any means, but by extension.
The Son of Man, wasn't that really always a precursor to the incarnation, Jesus?
What would you say to that?
Well, I'm reading the Bible right now, and I mean, the Son of Man is just everywhere.
I'm reading the Ezekiel too. This Son of Man.
It's the only place that you really have in the prophets for sure, much later. So what Jesus is talking about, if you go back to the class we had on the Son of Man, there's in the notes there, you'll see that Jesus equates the Son of Man, not with Ezekiel. Remember when he's in the trial? And they asked him who he was? He says, oh man, you're going to see the Son of Man riding on the clouds. And they're going, you're claiming to be the Daniel 7 guy? It wasn't, Ezekiel's never riding on clouds. It wasn't referring to his humanity, even though we know he's human. I'm not saying Jesus is human. But Jesus equates the Son of Man with also the title, the Son of God, which is the unique Son, right? In the book of John, we see that. He's the unique Son. Well, what do you mean by unique Son? Well, as we've said, there's other sons. There's other Elohim. But the Son of Man is that guy that gets to ride on the clouds, who has a kingdom that is sitting at the right hand of the Ancient of Days. So I don't think Jesus is saying, hey, look at me, I'm human. Look at me, I'm human. Well, good for you. High five, so am I. It's great. I guess we're equal. That's not why Jesus got crucified, right? He wasn't going around telling everybody how human he was. And because think about it, why would they feel threatened by that?
So that's the reason for him, his favorite name.
Yes. The Son of Man's going to go be betrayed. The Son of Man's going to do this. And that the problem is, it would be like me going around, yeah, Mondo doesn't feel well today. Mondo's having a good day. Yeah, Mondo went running yesterday. You'd be like, that's a tell you.
Schizophrenic.
Yeah. So when Jesus speaks in these, we know that oftentimes when he would heal somebody, what did he say? Don't tell anybody. Let's get, So he would speak about the Son of Man. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed. And then Peter's looking at John. The Son of Man. That's like Daniel 7? Is it Ezekiel? What's he talking about? The Son of Man. Because he didn't say, I'm going to be betrayed. He used this third person terminology. It's written down for us. And there's no doubt that Peter then understood, oh, no, Lord, that'll never happen to you. I won't let it happen. So clearly, to the disciples, he revealed these things, right? But he did not reveal his death and his third day rising again to the public. It was really, really rare if he ever did. And even there, like to the Pharisees in Matthew 12, give us a sign, give us a sign, give us a sign, give us a sign. He says, you know what? A wicked and adulterous generation sees a sign. The only sign this generation is going to get is a sign of the prophet Jonah. Just as Jonah was in the belly of the fish, 3 days and 3 nights, so will what? The Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And they're probably going, what is this guy talking about? Do you ever wonder why they accuse him of having a demon? Well, think about that. In that same passage. this guy's got a demon. Because he's speaking in these ways that are cryptic to them. And then in Matthew 13, he goes, look, why are you speaking parables? Well, I speak in parables to them because it's been hidden from them, but for you, I'm going to tell you. And then he goes to tell them, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed, killed, given over to the elders, third day rise again on earth, but don't tell them that. So is that a yes or a no? I'm a simple guy.
Restate the question.
What? No, what's the simple answer?
No.
No. He is not speaking at all, even 1% about his humanity there. Zero.
I didn't know.
The question was, when Jesus refers to some man, is referring to his humanity. That's what you're asking.
No, I was saying when the Old Testament talks about the Son of Man, isn't it a precursor to describe Jesus once he became incarnate? In other words, all the Son of Man is always a precursor.
Ezekiel and Daniel.
Is just a precursor showing that Jesus is going to become as the Son of Man, as that unique one.
I think I would say yes to that question. However, before Jesus came, there would be no way to know that. I mean, remember, we're always trying to envision ourselves in 50 BC, right? Before Jesus came, we're reading our Old Testament, and you're reading about the Son of Man, which only occurs once in the book of Daniel, this throne scene. And then you go and talking to your friend, he's reading Ezekiel. And now imagine the debate you guys are having.
But remember, all good stories always have a foreshadowing of what's to come.
Exactly.
And all of the Old Testament is a foreshadowing of Christ.
Correct. So as you and Linda are talking, you're going, I believe the Son of Man is this powerful being. And you're going, no, he's human. Well, why? Well, because Ezekiel's human and Ezekiel's a prophet and Ezekiel's being called the Son of Man. Therefore, this Son of Man guy, you know who it is? It's actually Ezekiel. Could you make that argument?
Is that your logic?
That would be my logic would be somewhat valid because they're contemporary with one another. But the only other place that you have the Son of Man is in Ezekiel. And so you're going, well, the Bible calls Ezekiel the Son of Man, and all of a sudden we have the Son of Man coming and showing up. Wow, God's going to give Ezekiel.
What would you think? What else would you think?
What else should you think? It's confusing. That logic would be reasonable, but the premise would be false because we don't have all the information.
Well, because in Ezekiel, what I was looking at is it's referring to him because he was a son of a man.
Of a human, sure.
Right. And so that's more the inference that I took with Ezekiel, which would then more relate to Son of Man, i.e. Jesus, in the New Testament, because it's said here that he's a son of a man, but he's not really, because he wasn't of the seed of Joseph.
The term Son of Man in the Old Testament basically just means human one. So for us to understand, and again, we're not denying Jesus' humanness. He was certainly human. The question is,
Mary.
what's that?
I just said son of Mary.
Yeah. He's still human. Yeah, for sure, because she was human naturally. But we understand his dual nature. But in order to understand the incorporation of that phrase, Son of Man, was Jesus, when he's describing himself as the Son of Man, was he referring to his humanness, like Ezekiel? Or was he referring to this figure, Daniel? That's the question. And if you look at the notes, nowhere in what I'm saying, the notes as relates to Jesus' the use of this term in the New Testament, it's hard to say. Every time he uses it, it brings him trouble, or most of the time, especially when he's talking to the Pharisees at this trial. If all he's doing is using the Son of Man to appeal to his humanness, Ezekiel, you have a big problem with that? Big deal. Jesus is using, you got to think about this. Jesus is using this phrase to inflame the situation. right? It wasn't until he brought up the Son of Man. Who are you? Are you the Messiah? Remember, see, that was the question. Are you the Messiah? And he goes, oh, yeah, you said it. And you're going to see the Son of Man running on the clouds of heaven, sitting at the right hand of God. So you're the Son of God then? Yes. Psh, blasphemy. He didn't need to say that. He didn't say, oh, you know, I'm the Son of Man, like Ezekiel. Right? Ezekiel wasn't riding on the clouds in heaven. He is equating the Son of Man with the cloud rider, which only comes from Daniel. That's how I would answer that, in the sense of, I would almost say that Ezekiel has nothing to do with it at all. At all. But that's foreshadowing, and I don't know if that was remember we talked about God hides things in the Old Testament, right? He encrypts them. It's weird that this phrase only appears, well, actually occurs twice, but both in Daniel. What is the Daniel 7 throne room scene? Running over the clouds. That's pretty serious. But the other one appears in Daniel 4, where you remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being in the fire?
Yeah, some appeared like the sun.
Hey, I see a fourth guy. There's someone appearing like the Son of Man. Which, again, tells you, what does that tell you if you're comparing, let's if we didn't do this before, but let's do it now, okay? Just in the book of Daniel, okay, we'll test your guys' creativity. Okay. So, what are some characteristics of this Son of Man guy? Okay. We're not in the book of Ezekiel. We're just in the book of Daniel, right? What do we know? What can we say? We call him the Cloud Rider, or the Bible does. What else?
He defies the natural, like, heat of the flame.
Yes.
He's
So
supernatural.
he's some supernatural guy. But secondly, this is going to be really important, I think, because in the throne, okay, let's keep going. We'll come back to this, okay? He's a cloud rider, which only Yahweh usually gets to do. That's interesting. Okay, what else do we know? He's given a kingdom, right? Great authority. What else could we say? I mean, kind of
Well, he was supernatural, but he was also visible.
visible. Okay? He became visible. Now, what's interesting, let's park here on the supernatural for a moment. Okay? If we go to Daniel 7, we see the Ancient of Days sitting on the throne, and then we see this person showing up on the clouds, and he's been given authority, dominion, etc. Is it possible that that person who's given the authority, etc., is human? From Daniel 7. Why not, right? I mean, it's possible that maybe God said, hey, I'm going to take David, and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to give him I'm going to let him ride on the clouds. I'm going to give him a kingdom. You would say, oh, okay, God could take a human, and he could bring him to that place of honor, right? Okay, that's true. Interestingly, though, in Daniel 4, the Son of Man appears in the fire with no lineage. You follow?
Yeah.
Who is the Son of Man guy, the Spirit of Daniel 4, the fire? So, it's definitely supernatural. He's visible. And he ends up protecting them, and he's walking around. And it almost seems that he comes from the spiritual realm. Like he's an Elohim, right? He's a spirit being. So, somewhere, somehow, he sits without... God didn't just raise him up, take him from the human pool and raise him up. Basically, what I'm saying is you have this idea of that he had some pre-existence there spiritually. He just shows up out of nowhere. That's kind of what I'm saying. So we have this idea of, well, but maybe God traded him. Maybe the Son of Man that appears in Daniel 4 was Michael the archangel, but whatever. We don't know. We just know that he appears out of nowhere with no human lineage.
But he really does, beg the question that is he the pre-incarnate Christ? Even Melchizedek, these encounters, Abraham, sharing a meal with the angel of God. So these pre-incarnate things really make a compelling argument that we had a pre-incarnate visit by Jesus Christ, multiple times in the Old Testament, multiple times. You string it together. It makes
and that's what we're doing, because last time we had up here, remember, God the Father, God the Son, and then God the Holy Spirit. And Jesus makes the comment, and you see this, no one has seen the Father at any time. I mean, that's John 3, right? No one has seen the Father. And you go, well, then what was Moses seeing? Who was Abraham seeing? Who was so-and-so seeing? You name it all the way through. The messenger that Jacob fought with. Well, if we take that at its face value, that had to be God the Son. In all of those theophanies, or again now Christophanies, then it had to be. And that's what we're trying to establish here, is Jesus's role. Let's see, you can say Jesus, God the Son's role prior to his incarnation. So here, we're going to talk about the angel of the Lord next week. But we'll see it here right in the beginning, Exodus 23. Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way, to bring you into the place that I have prepared. Pay careful attention to him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your sin or your transgression, for my name is in him. So God here, Yahweh, is speaking about this other angelic person in the third person. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, for my name is in him. If you carefully obey his voice, do all that I say, then I will be an enemy. And he goes on. Okay. So what I want to do next is just, you can see here that in the Old Testament, you have this idea of the name. Leviticus 24, the Israelites' woman's son blasphemed the name. Moreover, the one who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. The alien as well, but he blasphemes the name, shall be put to death. There's no doubt the idea of the name of somebody in Scripture is representative of that person. But what we're talking about here is another title for God the Son. We already saw the Word. In the beginning, God the Son was called the Word. And the Word was with God, the Word was God. So we know that this person had a name, had a title. And this name, this titled person, became flesh. That's John 1:14. But in the same way, if we were to rephrase it, which that's what we're trying to establish, could we say, in the beginning was the name, and the name was with God, and the name was God? What I think here is the answer would be yes, that it's another title, that the word, when you blaspheme the name, we can say, oh, the actual letters, and the letters represent, or is it referencing we're blaspheming a person? That's the question. And I think that what we'll see here, notice, I've just given you a couple of zeros as well. He can make his name dwell there. Look at Isaiah 30, though. Behold, the name of the Lord comes from afar, burning with his anger, thick rising smoke. His lips are full of fury, and his tongue is like a devouring fire. His breath is like an overflowing stream that reaches up to the neck. So, isn't that kind of odd language? That the name is anger. The name is being personified here as coming, first of all. I mean, I don't say, hey, Mondo's coming and I throw like 5 letters at you. M-O-N-D-O. It's very subtle here, but what we have is the angel up here, this person, we'll see it more next week, has God's name in him. Yahweh. Now that's pretty powerful in that sense. So let's see. A house built for the name of the Lord, save me by your name. Some people trust in horses, Psalm 20, but we trust in the name. Our help is in the name. Okay, goes on and up. Now, look at 2 Samuel 6. He says, and David arose and it went with all the people who were with him to Baal Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name, the very name of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned above the church. It's interesting that the word name here appears twice in Hebrew, and Shem. It's kind of weird. The ark is called the name, which is just weird. Okay.
Yeah.
The very name. Like, you mean not the name, but the very name? And that's literally how it reads. So, why is this important? Well, we'll see. Okay. So then in Matthew 19, think about this. Matthew 19. Everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold. So now what do we have here? Now we have Jesus coming along and saying his name is now equal with Yahweh's name. Which prophet, again, as we go back to the Son of Man, which prophet says, hey, you know what? If you believe in my name, Isaiah, you'll be saved. If you believe in my, if you get persecuted for my name, what we're saying is, well, what name? So then what we have is, I'll put it over here. Let's put it here. According to Jesus' own self-description, he's the Son of Man. Now we have another name, which is Jesus or Yeshua, which is worthy of being exalted to the same as Yahweh. That is bold. He goes around and we would say, well, if anybody has been persecuted for the name of Yahweh, they're going to receive blessings. See, we wouldn't be opposed to that. But when we start thinking about Jesus taking on these titles, we go, this guy's got an ego problem. Now think about from an average Jewish guy's perspective. No wonder they wanted to kill him. They couldn't grasp. And Jesus spoke in such a way that it was cryptic. So we're looking at it through the New Testament lens backwards. So we can't be too proud or arrogant. Well, man, these guys, why couldn't they see it? Jeff?
I just found it interesting. It refers to name as the presence of God, but then the only place that you see it capitalized is in 2 Samuel 6, which is called by the name, and I don't know if that's textual.
Linda has a great answer for that. Because last week she asked about that. You remember? What do we do with capitals in English?
Assume it means the Lord or God in heaven. It's her number name.
What we do with capitals in English is nothing. Why?
The translators.
Say again?
It's up to the translators of how they want to.
It's a translator's decision. They're doing that to help you. The fact that they capitalized N is their belief that it's something more than just. But in Hebrew, there's no capitals. So that's why last week we learned that. What do we do with them? Nothing, because we go, well, again, if you compare it, I gave some examples. I think I might have seen them out here.
And then in Greek, everything's capitalized.
Originally.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help us. So depending on your translation, some will capitalize it, Jeff, and some won't.
And the name of God was always capitalized, and if you see it not capitalized, you think that's so sacrilegious.
Yes.
That's the singer only there.
Yep. It's interesting, for me, I was kind of, my first Bible really was the New King James for a long time. And so for me, when I write my papers or, write anything, I'll always say, his or him, I'll always capitalize that. That's just his word, his love, whatever.
It makes it more important. I mean, it's like you got to pay attention when it's a capital.
Well, so here's the question. So I was reading, there was MacArthur had put out a blog. Well, I think these blogs are. So as I'm reading, he talks about his glory.
Yeah.
Is MacArthur a pagan?
No.
Where is his respect?
Off the bus.
Yeah, man.
Right. I was really shocked, and I thought it says more about me than it does him. Right? MacArthur has no problem with elevating God's glory, right? For sure. Okay, and he doesn't compromise. But I thought it's interesting that somewhere along the line, he stopped capitalizing it. Again, that bothers me. It's like, right, it says more about you than it does him.
Right.
And it says more about me. So, but can I go around going, I wish he was as spiritual as I was. I wish he was as reverent as I am to the name, right? We can't do that because, again, what we're recognizing is that, again, even, okay, even this, okay? I mean, if I say God is awesome, how many of you would be offended if I wrote it like that?
Like, you know what you're talking about? Like, little guys? You're not talking about Jesus or he.
This says more about you.
The Yahweh is all capitals.
Yeah, I did that just for English, but in Hebrew, are there capitals? No.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Those are all capitals.
These are, I did that to show you, to shorten it, that I didn't put the,
I understand that. I read Yahweh when I look at that.
this is the transliteration of the actual Hebrew letters. That's why I did it that way, because there's no vowels of Hebrew.
Right. So I don't have a problem with that, but you've got all capitals there. I thought you said there were no.
I'm doing this I'm noping it. Safe. Yes, some doping.
So, okay, so since capitals are big for English and not so much for Hebrew, wouldn't capitalizing God and him and his be on the same level as leaving out the vowels in Yahweh for Hebrew? Like, you're saying I'm more spiritual because I'm leaving out the vowels.
Well,
No powder.
yeah, I did it to fit it.
I was just saying, are they saying this? Can you say the same argument for each one? Different cultures?
Yeah, no doubt. Like if I'm writing, I would never write this because I know that would be offensive. Why would I unnecessarily offend anybody, right? That would be. But I could be real spiritual and academically snobbish and say, if you guys were up to my level, you would realize that this is an English adaptation for ignorance.
What about the hour and leaving out the vowels?
There are no vowels. So the same way, I could say, if you guys really understood Hebrew, you would recognize that any vowel I put in there is my interpretation.
Okay. I thought they left out the vowels to be really.
No, there's just no vowels at all in Hebrew.
Oh.
I blame myself.
So I had written.
Yeah, I write with no vowels a lot because I know what it means.
Right.
I'm-
This is a very
Who needs the vowels?
efficient language written one.
Yes.
Which creates complications if you're not astute. That's for me because I'm not fluent in everyday modern Hebrew. I do okay. I remember I was taking a modern Hebrew class in seminary, and what the teacher would do for us is he would give us newspaper articles to read, and so it was really, really overwhelming at first because, I would have like a 4-year-old or 3-year-old level of fluency, right? Okay. In the sense of modern conversational Hebrew. Well, then he'd give us these things and I'd be like, well, what word is, so I'll give you an example. So it's interesting, but I've done this to you guys before, and if we do,
You can't write, okay.
What does that say?
He went to the store.
We went to the store. Imagine a non-English person having to fill in, vowels there. Do you be like, maybe we wanted to say hi. Okay, that's pretty clear. I don't know whatever vowel. It'd have to be two. That would have, and you could say maybe though we're speaking slang. And what about star, or whatever? Hi, went to the star. We would say, come on, doesn't make any sense.
But you've taken it out of context.
Correct.
If you've got context, you can figure it out.
But after about 5 or 6 weeks of reading the newspaper articles, I found, wow, it got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Just by recognizing the consonants. So it wasn't as difficult as I was anticipating, but it took some time to get there. So in this sense, Yahweh doesn't have vowels. It's just, those are the 4 consonants. That's why I put it like that.
I always thought they had left out the vowels for reverence. I'm up on.
It's all of the Hebrew Bibles like this with pill vowels. Well, actually what they do is they put a little dot here like this, and then they'll put 2 here, and then they'll do this, and then there's that. And the dots came, like 5th century, 8th century AD to help pronounce the help with the pronunciation of the particular things, because everybody's speaking Hebrew, right? But when you're reading the text, all of a sudden, because Hebrew became less and less and less, people don't know how to pronounce this anymore. How is it pronounced? Oh, you don't know? No, I haven't spoken Hebrew in forever. I wasn't raised on Hebrew. So they created these vowel dots, not to touch the text, but to put dots up above and below in order to help. This is how we currently pronounce it. Don't forget. And everybody's glad. This is called the Masoretes. Everybody's glad the Masoretic text, which is where we get the Hebrew.
Oh, interesting.
Everybody's glad that they did that, because now we can go, oh, and one of the things, like for example, I'll give you another just quick. You guys are learning. This is good. If we do this, okay, you'll see us often in Hebrew. Everything in Hebrew is 3-letter roots. Okay, so what words can we make from those 3 letters in English? Sing, song, sing. We could say sung if you want.
Snug.
Yeah, we could put snug, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
We could say singing, which is another ending on there. But, so, sing is a verb, song's a noun, sang's a past tense, right? That's in way past tense. So you see, just from those 3 letters, we can do this. Just by putting in the vowels, which tell us about the pronunciation. The same way in Hebrew, where you, what they call vocalize it, it tells you whether it's a past tense, a verb, a noun, tells you what kind of verb it is. It's really, really hard sometimes. They go, oh, we know what to, we're going to revocalize it this way. So all we're dealing with is the letters. Right. So people will argue about what kind of tense is it? How are you going to vocalize it? Here's some other hints there that go on. But anyways,
Context, yes.
the context.
This is backing up a little bit, and I'm going to caution myself, but because you said you could challenge you.
I love challenges.
Okay, trust me. I just don't want to think I'm disrespectful.
I'm not afraid of by any means. Just to
I went on my pad and said, let's go Son of Man, when it started first appear in the Old Testament. Let's do it. Ezekiel. First time ever. There's a footnote. It says, he said to me in Ezekiel 2, Son of Man. The footnote is, the human phrase Ben Adam means human being. Like this phrase, the Son of Man, is retained for the form of address here and throughout Ezekiel because the possible association of the Son of Man in the New Testament. So I think the basis is that the Son of Man wasn't used in Ezekiel. They just, New Testament, when they reread it, just put it in there, but it was supposed to be Ben Adam. Son of Man, a human being.
So since he says, wait, this is who didn't use it? He said it came back and
it basically says the human phrase Ben Adam means human being. The phrase Son of Man is retained as a form of address here and throughout Ezekiel because of the possible association with the Son of Man in the New Testament. In other words, they changed it. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, no. See, now remember, who changed it?
The New Testament writers, after they wanted to have the Old Testament line up with the Son of Man in the New Testament. So they turned around and changed Ezekiel phrase of human being so that it would line up with the New Testament. In other words, they rewrote the Ezekiel.
Who's rewriting this?
Well, this is just a footnote.
Difference either foreign stick. It doesn't change. Ezekiel is the same in the Jewish text.
The problem is that right now we're talking about English. Nothing was changed in Hebrew. Ben Adam is the word.
It is.
So you can write, if you go on, like if you have the Young's literal translation, oftentimes it's so literal it'll just say son of Adam, son of Adam, son of Adam. It'll say that in English. Right. So what the writer's saying there, this is very technical. What that note is saying is, oh, by the way, the reason why in your English translation it says Son of Man and not Human One, is because of the association that translator had with the New Testament. You follow?
A little bit.
The Hebrew is the same, but what that writer, I'll say it again. What that writer, that note is saying is, oh, why isn't this translated as Human One or Son of Adam?
Right.
And they're saying, well, the reason why the translator chose the word Son of Man instead of the word human in your English is because he's trying to make a connection. He's reading how Jesus, this guy in the New Testament, speaks so much about the Son of Man. And because out of reverence for that, or remember, he's helping you. He's a translator. He's interpreting there's a connection there. And therefore, he's going, well, because Jesus said Son of Man, English, I'm going to write Son of Man for this Hebrew Ben Adam every time. So that I'm helping you, Jerry, make an association as you read the book of Ezekiel between that and Jesus. You see how much interpretation just happened right there?
Yeah.
So don't take the note as being indicative that when they say it was changed, what it's saying is
What have Jesus said?
Jesus would have said Ben Adam because he was Hebrew. Yeah. So if we want, we can skip all that and we can just, and we've had trouble, we can just talk Hebrew the whole time. Ben Adam, Ben Adam, Ben Adam. And some new person's going to go, what? What does he say? You know, just like we use the word Elohim, right? That causes trouble sometimes.
But there's a big difference between I'm saying Ben Adam or at being human being versus he's the Son of God. Because I'm just, the point being is he would be
100%. Ben Adam, Son of Man, especially in the book of Ezekiel, nowhere means Son of God. I don't even think anybody would interpret it that way. He's talking to this human guy. Hey, human guy, Ezekiel. However, when we get to the New Testament and Jesus connects Son of Man, Ben Adam, with Ben El, right? We've talked about the B'nai Elohim, the Son of God, using that phrase. He's connecting those two together based on Daniel 7. Well, how do we know that? I erased it, but how do we know that? There's just one word. It's clouds. We can't, that is inescapable. Never in Ezekiel is that human guy riding on the clouds. But the Son of Man guy in Daniel is riding on the clouds, and therefore Jesus equates it with the Son of God. So what we can say now, based on Jesus' interpretation, is the Son of Man is the Son of God. That's how much it elevates it. Ben Adam becomes Ben El based on Jesus because they're both cloud riders, like Yahweh is. And you go, whoa, man, that blows my mind. And it blew the Jewish mind enough to kill him.
Okay. The Daniel's one says the first time it appears in Daniel, the footnote is the Aramaic phrase of Ben Anash, which means human being. Is the same difference?
Where human being is meant there, right?
Well,
Is that what we're talking?
and if it's Aramaic, it's going to be the word bar, right? We know
Bar and Nash.
Bar and ash. The word Enosh or Anash comes from Hebrew. We're going way back into Genesis where there was a guy. The word Enosh is another word for like human one. It's almost like they have a frail human being. So the Aramaic in there, this is from Daniel 2 to Daniel 7 is in Aramaic. And so there it appears in certain parts of Daniel to Daniel, middle parts of Daniel 7. Their equivalence is Bar Anash or Anash.
It still says the phrase of Son of Man is retained here because of this use of the New Testament as the title of Jesus. Probably.
Agreed. Yep. It's retained by the translators. We always I don't want to leave a bad taste about translators. We just have to recognize that, wow, they are helpful, but they're also interpreted.
And we're really focusing on Daniel 7 more so than that in the sense. And let me read Daniel 7, 13 through 14, just to see the entirety of context.
Yeah, Cooper.
There's no missing the point.
Let's refresh it again. And we're see the main word. What's the main word?
They denied the Lord, and there before me was one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into the presence. He was given authority, glory, sovereign power. All peoples, nations worshipped him. Oh, dang, I jumped over. Every language worshipped him. His dominion is everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. It's pointing almost right to Revelation.
Oh,
It jumps right to Revelation. So, I mean, that's
what do we have? Worship? Which showing even an angel, right? Revelation? Twice in the book of Revelation, they tried to worship the angel. He says, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't worship me. Worship, dominion, eternal kingdom, authority, sovereignty, clouds, right at the clouds. This guy is extremely unique. And the only one that is worthy of all of this is Yahweh. So this Son of Man figure, do we get any of these in Ezekiel about the Son of Man? Not even once. No. So when Jesus comes and says, yeah, and we would say, that sounds a lot like the Son of God. And Jesus says, exactly. The Son of Man is the Son of God. They're equated. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, in the last 4 minutes, okay, which is fine. I thought, man, I don't know if we're gonna round up. I mean, we're gonna be done early. Okay, that's clipped out, which is crazy. Just what I did here is I'm at the point of that the Romans 1:5 at the top. Okay. That's obedience of faith for the sake of his name that was of Jesus. They went out, look at 3 John 1:7. For they went out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Now that's capitalized. That is a translation. That's the New American Standard. They chose to do that. But it's interesting. They went out for the sake of the. It is a definite article there, the name. But you go, I mean, 3 John is a very little book. They went out for the sake of the name. If you were a Jewish person, you're going to go, oh, for a Jewish person, what's the name? Yahweh. Yahweh. From a New Testament perspective, what's the name? Jesus. There's been this, see, the Jews, a modern non-believing Jew gets upset because they think that Christians have hijacked their Bible and have now we worship this brand new God, this man who we exalted to become God, and we've taken all of the language of the Old Testament referring to Yahweh and we've thrown it on this guy, Jesus.
When he did.
See, so for them, we're a bunch of pagans because we're worshiping this new Jesus guy. So what I did here for the rest of it is Acts 5, to speak, they went out to speak in the name of Jesus, to suffer dishonor for the name. See, again, now, name. There's the name again. Now, this is the ESV. Did they capitalize it? No. They're a bunch of pagans. They don't even have enough respect as the New American Standard translators. So we have to just not think that way, okay? But then what I did is, all I did is typed in my software name just in the Gospel of John. This is a huge theological theme in the Gospel of John, which is no surprise because in John 1:1, in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word. The Word. So we already have him exalting or sharing with us Jesus' titles from the Old Testament, being the Word. Hey guys, the Word was with God, the Word was God. So he has a very high, he's like, let me tell you about the Word. And I think just the name, notice here, we'll go through all these, but John 1:12, even to those who believe in his name, he gave the right to become the children of God. Salvation comes through his name, Jesus' name. I like John 3:18. This is Jesus speaking right after John 3:16. He who believes in him is not judged, but he who does not believe has been judged already because he has not believed in the name of the only unique Son of God. Now think about that. This is in the beginning. He's talking to Nicodemus, and he's telling Nicodemus, unless you believe, they're condemned. Why? Because they haven't believed in the name of the only unique Son of God. Nicodemus is driving along. I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean the unique Son of God?
The note I have for Daniel 7:13 says, and it's the net, is that it's only in modern times where they associated with that kind of corporate son of man, human being type. But it says traditionally the Jews and the early Christians associated that with the Messiah.
Yes. No doubt. See, and what they're referring to is Christian history, church history, that they've come to change things. But that's what's great about going back to these original writings, the Dead Sea Scrolls and others, because you could see that this Daniel 7 guy, he appears in the Dead Sea Scrolls a lot. I mean, this is the dude. This guy's awesome. And they associated him with the Messiah. And Jesus comes along after all this has been written, and he comes to say, yeah, that's me. You're him? Yep. They ripped their clothes. You guys have been waiting for this. Why? I don't understand the problem. I'm telling you I'm he, but they didn't want him. So, okay, last thing here. You guys can look at all this. But I want to go down to the highlighted one in John 17:11. Here you go. Yep, actually, I don't have it here, but in John 17:5, somebody read that during that. Sure. But as you're getting there, John 17 is this glorious chapter, Jesus' prayer, him and the Father talking, and we get an insight into the fullness of how Jesus describes his own ministry. But look at 17:11. You have it, Jerry? Yeah. Go ahead.
You said 17:5.
Read verse 5. Yeah.
And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began.
You think about that. The glory he had with Yahweh
Before the world
was. I mean, that's it. Now, Jesus is, who did he say that to? He said it to the Father in the privacy of Peter, James, and John, right? Because they were there in the garden with him as he's praying. He didn't say that publicly, okay? But he says here in verse 11, keep them in your name, the name which you had given me. And then in verse 12, while I was with them, I was keeping them in your name, which you had given me. That is incredible. What name did Yahweh give Jesus? His own name. I mean, think, who else is qualified to be called Yahweh except Yahweh? And Jesus is saying, hey, by the way, hey, we shared this glory together before the world was. Thank you. Keep them in your name. I'm going to be in the grave for 3 days. Can you keep them while I'm gone? Because I've been keeping them while here because you gave them as a gift to me, and I'm not going to let anything go, but I have a little bit moment where I'm going to be gone for 3 days. Can you take care of them? I kept them in your name, the name which you have given me. No one else can claim that. This is where you see by Jesus' own language that he is this guy. He is the second person of the divine council on Yahweh's throne, which means, and Heiser does a great job of this, there's two rulers of the divine council. There's Yahweh and this other guy. And so when Jesus comes in John 10, again, this is John 17, right? We're reading the Gospel of John. When he comes to that and says, hey, he's going to send you law. You know, Psalm 82, he quotes Psalm 82. We'll get there. They're going, well, you being a man, make yourself out to be an Elohim? And then he says, yeah, the Father is in me, and I am in him, and we are one. He says, not only am I not just a man, and not only am I a part of the divine council, I am the second person ruling on there. Oh, then what happened? What was the response? Pick up stones, a stone. Anybody that says he's arguing that he was a human judge hasn't really come to the full ramifications of what this really means. You know, and we'll get there and we'll go through it line by line, but I think that was the last part. Okay.